Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Robert Kaelin here at the Elevate Podcast, all things business, brand, and leadership, here with my co-host
Mike Newman. Great to be with you again today. We're got some, as always, some good things we're going to talk about. You know, we've been dropping in some things from Live to Lead along the way. I mean, it's an incredible half-day conference that is put on annually in Atlanta, Georgia. We have the opportunity, Robert and I do, as Maxwell team leadership team members, we have this opportunity to bring that to organizations or to individuals. And we've heard in prior episodes from Ryan Leake, from Kendra Scott, from Marcus Buckingham, and today you're going to hear a little bit from the man himself, John Maxwell, as he talks a little bit about communication. And we'll be discussing a little bit that he has in his Live to Lead piece around high road leadership. And so as we look at that, Robert, when you think of communication and high road leadership, what are a couple of things that come to your mind?
Yep. So you guys, if you're a visual like I am, I literally imagine a fork in the road. One goes up and one goes down, right? Mm-hmm. We have the ability to take the high road. We have a choice to make, okay? And in this fork in the road, we can choose to go high, which is taking that moral compass, taking that high ground, setting yourself up for success, or we take that low road, which who knows where it goes, usually nowhere good. And that's kind of the visual that comes to my mind when I think about high road leadership, and especially communication, because I'm a visual communicator, and so I really like visuals.
Yeah. You know, so John, in this little video clip we're going to show you is talking about his latest book that's published, the 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And John has written the 21 Laws of Leadership, the 17 Laws of Teamwork, the 15 Laws of Growth. And this is one that, as a communicator, where he is in his stage of life, so this is something I need to get in people's hands. So we're going to hear John, and you'll see a little bit of the start of this will be the cover of his book as we go into this. And then we'll come out of that, talk about not only the communication part, but then also what we were sharing about high road leadership. So here we go.
And the law of leverage just simply says, good communicators lead from their strength. Wow. They lead from their strength and they use it often. In other words, when you lead from your strength, you're leading from who you naturally are. Now, what the key is, you want to improve who you naturally are. But you want to lead from the authenticity of the teaching is based upon you're leading from your strength. Now, here's what happens. When you lead from your strength, you find your voice. You find your voice when you're now leading in the areas that you're good in, that you're strong in, that you have really developed. And so in this chapter on the law, I talk about strength motivators, I talk about strength skills, and I talk about strength zones. And the strength motivators, what are those? Those are things that I'm naturally good at, okay? And I talk about the 4 H's. I talk about that when people speak, they pretty much want to do one of 4 things. They either want to help people, they want to speak, or they want to speak from their heart. They want to, maybe they use humor because that's who they naturally are, or they want to give hope. And I call it the 4 H's. And I tell people, what you got to do is look at the 4 H's and ask yourself, which one is naturally me?
So the 4 H's.
Yep.
Heart, hope, humor, and help. Heart, hope, humor, and help. So, Robert, when you think about yourself, which of those 4 are you naturally gifted at? Is your strength?
I think mine goes straight to the heart.
Straight to the heart.
Straight to the heart, yeah. I think that's definitely the strength zone for me. when I think about what he just shared there, there's so many things that come to my mind that, we could go off on multiple tangents. He said, lead from your strength and use it often. Lead from your strength and use it often, because when you lead from your strength, you find your voice. I mean, if we just put those two things together, what does that communicate in our own lives and in our own hearts? When we lead from our strength, we find our voice. I know all of us as leaders want to find our voice, want to clarify our message, want to impact as many people as we possibly can. And if you want to do that, this is a great starting place. Just start leading from your natural strength.
Yeah, when I heard those and have read part of his book, I may not finished the book yet, but as Maxwell always writes, I mean, it's easy to understand what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And I used to think that I had to be the funny guy, the humor guy, but that's not a strength. I can tell a joke every now and then. I can certainly have some self-deprecating humor along the way, but mine is about help. When I can help people, when I can speak to help people, that's where I'm in my strength. And and the other part of that is I'm always trying to give people hope. I'm always mm-hmm. trying to help people with hope. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about these areas of the book, and he's just only talked about one of the 16 laws with the law of leverage, and just barely got into that to talk about those different elements of the 4 H's about the strength that's behind where you connect. When you think, though, Robert, about great people that you've heard speak, whether it's John or somebody else, we've talked about Marcus Buckingham, we've had a piece from Ryan Leake and from mm-hmm. Kendra Scott on here, some incredible speakers. And in the past, we've had, we've talked about other great speakers that we've heard. What is it that makes a speaker great to you?
Mm-hmm. It's great. It's connection.
Connection, okay.
Their ability to connect with the audience is the thing that makes it memorable. And whether or not that's through the heart, through their help, through their humor, or their hope, I think it's really about just creating a connection with the audience so that you can bring them on that journey. If you don't connect with them, you've lost them from the beginning. They never even started following you or started learning from you. So that's what I think about when I think about a great speaker, is it starts with connection.
Yeah. It's interesting to me as we look at our own podcast theme and the Elevate theme of business, brand, and leadership. We're communicating all the time. It's not just the words we say, mm-hmm. it's the tone in which we say it. It's the logos, the messages that we have. If I say Nike, to those of you in the US, you probably just thought of the Nike swoosh or of Michael Jordan. If I used some other brand, you would think of what those images are. So our communication is really key when we're working with individuals, more key, I think, than even when we're in front of a big stage. Last time we talked about a quote from Coach K about being sure your communication and what's understood is what's meant. And if we can't get down to the individual level and knowing that people understand what we said and what we're doing, our communication just begins to fall apart. Mm-hmm. And as we talk about, the other part that John was sharing, that he shares in the Live to Lead thing, is a new book that he has coming out, and I believe the title of it is called High Road Leadership. Mm-hmm. And he shares in Live to Lead, he shares some of those high road leadership principles. And it's value all people. Mm-hmm. And he emphasizes the all. It's about acknowledging people's humanness, that high road leaders do the right thing for the right reasons. And the one that I wanted us to maybe spend a little bit of time on was about the fifth one in there that says, high road leaders give more than they take.
That's good.
So as I give you that phrase, Robert and I didn't talk about this before,
no.
But But when we say give more than they take, what does that mean?
So it's funny that you say this because I just wrote a book called Generous Influencers. And, it really is about being generous or adding value to people, right? When John talks about high road leadership, the low road is where you treat people worse than they treat you. You go down the low road and you treat them worse than they treat you. The middle road is where you treat people the same as they treat you. But the high road is where you treat people better than they treat you. And I think when we can add value to people, not because of how we feel about them, but because they are a person and they matter, and the game changes. The game changes completely. We're no longer playing the same game. In fact, we're in a different universe playing a different game, and I think that's what it means to me. Is it's all about generosity.
Have you ever had one of those incredible customer service experiences that, you just go, wow, that I didn't even expect that to happen.
It's
You
funny.
know?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny. I had a boss tell me about a time when he was a kid, he went to Disneyland, and this was the time that E.T. had just come out. The E.T. ride down at Disneyland or Universal, one of the two. And he said, you go into there, you're standing in line, you get in, and ET's right at the front, and it says, hey, tell me your name. And you say your name to ET, and you go in and you wait in line a little bit more, and then you get on the ride. And at the end of the ride, ET's standing right there. It says, goodbye, Robert. And you're just
Wow.
like, whoa, he said my name. How did he know my name? I mean, by the time you got to the end of it, you had forgotten that ET even asked you your name at the beginning. And so just having him say your name, was like incredible.
And I think that that's part of our, as leaders, what our responsibility is to know the names of our people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I, I've always prided myself on knowing my employees' names. Even when I had 80 people that were underneath me, I knew each of their names. I knew something about them. And when you do that, you're going the extra mile in regards to giving more than you receive. Um, and so in the story that I have here related to that is that I work for a superintendent that would introduce us all at the beginning of the year to the new teachers. And she was amazing. I mean, she knew not only your name, but your spouse's name, your kid's name, and places that you had worked, and even the schools that you attended. And she did it without any notes. Okay, now in the school district that I worked in, there were 70 of us that were administrators. She knew that much about all 70 people.
Wow. That's
And
incredible.
and what probably impressed me the most, and I strove then to be able to do that same thing. I've never reached to be able to get down as far as she did with all of it. Um, but I asked her one day, how do you do this? And she says, well, it's a natural gift that I have, but I am very intentional about making sure that I know. And and so she probably did some rehearsal in the background, looking at her notes to be sure she had everybody. But I was just always impressed that she knew people's names, and always took the high road. There were times when things didn't go right, where, there was some of the times, where you'd have a difficult meeting, but it was always with your best interest in mind. And so I think when we talk about giving more than we receive as high road leadership, that middle road leadership is that, we give equal to what we receive.
Mm-hmm.
And the low road is that we take more than we receive.
Mm-hmm.
And so often, when we think about our own leadership, our own companies, the business that we do, the question we have to ask ourselves, are we giving more than we receive?
Mm-hmm.
And what's that value that we're giving back to the organization, to the client, to the customer, whatever it happens to be? The other one, Robert, that I thought we could talk about is is the one that he has in regards to the thought being around adding value to all people.
Yeah.
You know, we oftentimes says we add value to people, but this time he's changed it to say add value to all people.
Yep. I used to struggle with the idea of like adding value just in general, because I'm like, what does that mean? That's such a like ambiguous term, adding value. But the more that I've realized there's a purpose in the ambiguity. And the reason it's communicated in the way of just adding value to people, which is we all do that with our uniqueness, with who we are, with our various strengths, with our own abilities, with our own experiences and perspectives. And there's beauty in the fact that we can share our uniqueness. Now, that also expresses it itself in when he says all people, right? Because we're all different, because we're all unique, celebrating the fact that I'm going to add value to you regardless of anything else. There's, I want to share this. I hope people find encouragement in this. It's from Kevin M. Keith, who wrote The Paradoxical Commandments. Okay, this is 10 paradoxical commandments I want to share. It says, people are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you're successful and you win false friends and true enemies, succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and be frank anyway. The biggest men and women with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest men and women with the smallest minds. Think big anyway. People favor underdogs but follow only top dogs. Fight for the few underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you do help them. Help anyway. Give the world the best you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway. I think that's a good thing about adding value to people, to all people anyway, right? Regardless of the things that happen, the way people perceive it, you always want to show up and add value to all people, regardless of what situation may come, because it's the high road.
Right. And the high road doesn't mean that we always agree with what people have to say, what their thoughts are. It doesn't mean that you're not able to disagree. But it's a matter of treating them with respect, with dignity, with honor.
Yeah.
So we can have a disagreement and still treat people with respect and with honor and with grace. And I think that in our world today that we've lost a lot of respect in the relationship. You know, I disagree with you, and so I'm not going to talk to you anymore. So disagreements, they're okay. But when we get to the disrespect, that's when I'm not going to talk to you anymore becomes the thing that happens. And I think we have way too much of that going on right now.
I would agree.
Yeah. And I think that, there's a disagreement. We have the right to be wrong, but we have to be also willing to listen. So we talk about the communication elements of things. So I have my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And so when I'm thinking of this communication part and the high road leadership part that we've been talking about is how do we assure that we are treating people with respect and with honor and dignity, how we take the high road and how we communicate. How do we communicate good news or bad news? I mean, you can communicate if you're a leader and you're having to downsize, you can communicate and treat people well as they have to transition out of your organization. Or you can do it disrespectfully. Send them a note. Don't have a conversation. Don't tell them how much you care about them. Just send them a note because you don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I've been in organizations where this happened, where somebody sat down with you and told you the reasons of why. I've been in organizations where we'll just send them a letter and tell them they're done on Friday. That's complete disrespect.
Yeah.
And so how we treat people is taking the high road all the time. It doesn't mean that you're not going to disagree. It doesn't mean that you're, going to agree on all the things that they have. But it does mean that you're going to treat them with dignity and respect.
And it also doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard.
Exactly.
Right? Taking the high road is the hard road. And to do the thing, ultimately, the high road is the most loving place you can go in business and family and in anything. And to love people is just to pursue their well-being.
Yeah.
I think we convolute that a lot, but we always want to pursue the well-being of another person, of the other people that are in our care. And I love Simon Sinek when he says, leadership is not about being in charge, it's about caring for those in your charge. And I think that's the high road leadership that we're talking about today.
Yeah. Good. Well, we look forward to our next podcast next week. And Robert, thanks for your leadership that you have. And if this podcast is something that spoke to you, share it with others. If you've got some comments, certainly ship those to us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you've got some ideas that you'd like to hear us talk about on the podcast, send those our way as well.
Absolutely. You guys, we love you. We're so glad that we get to be here doing this. There's a lot that goes into putting these packages together of small bite-sized episodes. But we do it with love. We do it because we want to take the high road with you guys. And so we are excited for the journey together, and we'll continue it next week. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.